Today, the 4th of April 2025 is Friday of the 4th week of Lent. The theme for our reflection is the need to align our timing to God's own timing. In the Gospel passage I will read today from John chapter 7 verse 1 and following, the disciples of Jesus had tried to convince him to go to Jerusalem for the Feast of Tabernacles, since there will be a large number of people there. For them, it will be an opportunity to show himself and let the people see what he was capable of. However, Jesus kept telling them that it was not time yet. My time has not come, he kept saying. My dear friends, if there is anything that we have in common with the disciples, it is that we also hate waiting. Waiting very often feels like wasting time. Whether it is waiting at the bus stop, or it is waiting for a crucial phone call, or that email that is supposed to make a whole world of difference to our lives, waiting can be a drag and a tedious exercise. It is even worse if we are waiting on God to help us with some issue in our lives. As we see in the Gospel passage, Jesus was caught in the drama of waiting. However, in his magnanimity, Jesus decided to humor the disciples by going to the feast as they requested, even if in private. But like the golden fish that Jesus was, he could not hide, and he had to preach in the temple. The result was that the Jews got really curious that the authorities had not arrested him. As if to show them that God's program for carrying out his mission was not going to be altered just because of the restlessness of his disciples and their hurry, even the authorities could not arrest him, even though they desperately wanted to do so. It was as if some invisible force was holding them down. Even though their hostility towards Jesus had grown to its limits, yet they could not arrest him because, according to John 7 verse 30, his time had not yet come. Dear brothers, my dear sisters, the common saying, God's time is the best, comes to mind here. How often do we mistake God's waiting time for his absence or lack of concern or care about our circumstances? How often do we consider delay as abandonment? We must realize, dear friends, that the time of waiting is not an empty moment. The period of waiting can be likened to when you give a job to a carpenter, for example, and he's going about the task in his workshop. You do not know what he's doing, how much effort he's putting to ensuring that he gets a perfect set of furniture for you. We are often interested only in getting our furniture delivered, and so we get impatient. Our time of waiting on God is similar, to the extent that we get impatient because we do not realize that the waiting time is a time that is molding us and preparing us for what He's going to send to us. Of course, that analogy with the carpenter is not perfect, knowing how workmen can be mischievous. But we know too that our God has the master plan of our lives, and He does not deceive. If He delays, know that delay does not necessarily mean denial. We can get impatient, but what we must not forget is that God is at work. Let all of us think about the times in our lives when God made us wait. Maybe it was waiting for healing, for reconciliation, or for direction on a matter. In that moment, the waiting felt unbearable. But looking back, can we now see how God was at work in that moment of